Welcome back to your daily therapy. So, here what I can see. You're absolutely consumed by thoughts of this person. They've taken over your mind, your heart, your future dreams. You're picturing what life would be like together. The bliss, the adventures, the deep connection. Sounds perfect, right? And in your efforts to make that dream a reality, you're pulling out all the stops. You're going above and beyond, trying to be the best version of yourself, showing them everything that makes you amazing. You've rearranged your life around theirs, bending to fit what you think they want, doing everything in your power to make them see you. Here's where it gets real. The more you do this, the more you're actually pushing them away. Why? Because all that bending, all that effort, it screams desperation. It shows that you've placed them on a pedestal, and in doing so, you've diminished your own worth. You've allowed them to define your value, and the moment you do that, you lose the game. Desperation, insecurity, and constant approval seeking send a clear message. You don't believe you're enough as you are. Think about it. Who wants to be with someone who doesn't even see their own value? No one. People are drawn to strength, confidence, and self-assuredness. They don't become obsessed with the one who's bending over backward, who has no boundaries, who's willing to mold themselves into whatever they think the other person wants. They become obsessed with the one who stands firm, who knows their worth, and isn't afraid to let others know it too. Let's be brutally honest for a second. You're ready to become their puppet, to let them pull the strings however they like. But here's the cold truth. Nobody respects a puppet. Nobody desires someone they can control at will. The more you let them dictate the rules, the less they see you as someone worth pursuing, and the more they see you as someone easily replaced. Now, here's the harsh reality. When you give up control, when you let their needs define your behavior, you're telling them you're not worth the effort. You're showing them that you're not worth the chase, and that's a surefire way to make them lose interest. People don't become obsessed with someone they can easily control. They become obsessed with those who are in control of their own lives, those who hold their own power. The moment you start bending for them, giving up parts of yourself to fit their narrative, you're handing over your power. But if you're really ready to make them obsessed with you, genuinely obsessed, then stick with me, because we're about to flip the dynamic. Every piece of advice I'm about to share is designed to shift the power back into your hands. But before we go any further, hit that like button if you're serious about taking control of this game. That's your first small step in reclaiming your power. Here's the thing. The more you try to impress them, the more they see someone desperate for approval. But the moment you stop trying, when you stand firm in who you are and live life on your terms, that's when the magic happens. People are naturally drawn to those who have something going on in their lives, something exciting, something that makes being a part of it feel like a privilege. And that's exactly where you need to be. Instead of wasting energy trying to figure out how to win them over, turn that focus back onto yourself. What makes you tick? What lights your fire? What are you passionate about outside of this person? Stop focusing on making them love you and start building a life you love. Because here's the reality. They're going to be drawn to someone who isn't chasing their approval, someone who's living their best life, regardless of whether they're in it or not. This isn't about creating mystery by pulling back. It's about charging forward into the best version of yourself. You don't need their validation because you've already claimed your worth. You stop chasing them because, at the end of the day, you're the prize. The moment they see you living your life, building something extraordinary without them, they'll start asking themselves, why aren't they chasing me? What's going on in their life that I'm not a part of? And just like that, the dynamic shifts. They start chasing you, not because you've tricked them into it, but because you've become someone worth being obsessed with. So, let's get real for a moment. Are you done with the approval-seeking game? Are you ready to stop waiting for them to notice how amazing you are? Are you ready to stop proving yourself and start living fully for yourself? If the answer is yes, it's time to make the switch. They're not going to fall in love with the version of you that's trying too hard. They'll fall in love with the version of you that doesn't need them, but makes them want you. Because that's the key. You are the prize. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This is about mastering your own life. Be the person others want to follow, not because you're chasing after them, but because you're chasing after your own dreams. When you shift the focus back onto yourself, you're no longer the one chasing approval. You're the one living in a way that demands respect. Here's your challenge. Drop the comment, "I am the prize," below. Let them find out what it means to truly chase someone worth their time and effort. But more importantly, let you rediscover your own worth. This isn't about them. It's about claiming the power that's always been yours. You're not here to play games for their attention. You're here to become the best version of yourself. When you embody that truth, everything else falls into place. Remember, you are the prize. And once you master these dark psychology tips, you won't have to lift a finger. They'll be the ones chasing you, constantly wondering how they can earn your attention. These strategies aren't about manipulation. They're about flipping the power dynamic and living in a way that commands respect and admiration. So, are you ready? Ready to stop chasing and start attracting? Because once you've mastered this, you'll be the one they're obsessed with, not the other way around. Let's dive in. Number 1, the art of mixed signals. So folks, maybe you're trying to attract someone new, or maybe someone who's become distant lately. You've probably been putting in the effort, showing them your best self, being there for them whenever they need you. But let me ask you this. How's that working out for you? If you're like most people, they're probably not as obsessed with you as you'd hoped. And here's why. You're too predictable. People don't crave what's always available. They crave what's uncertain, what keeps them guessing. That's where the art of mixed signals comes in. Mixed signals are like emotional breadcrumbs. You give just enough to keep them intrigued, but not so much that they feel like they've got you figured out. Imagine this. You're texting someone every day, pouring out your energy, always available at their beck and call. Sure, it feels good to be attentive, but guess what? You're becoming the human equivalent of a grocery store, a reliable stop they take for granted. No one obsesses over that. They obsess over the restaurant that's always fully booked, the one that leaves them waiting and wondering if they'll ever get a table. The idea behind mixed signals isn't to mess with someone's head or play games. It's to keep them emotionally engaged by not being an open book. As Epictetus wisely said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. How you respond in the early stages of a relationship sets the tone. If you're too available, too predictable, you're telling them you're not a challenge. But when you throw in a little mystery, when you show that your life doesn't revolve around their attention, they start to wonder about you. And curiosity breeds obsession. Imagine this scenario. You're out on a great date, the conversation is flowing, and the chemistry is there. They're feeling it, you're feeling it. But instead of texting them the next morning saying how much fun you had, you wait. You take a step back. You leave room for them to think about you, to wonder if you felt the same spark. That slight delay, That moment of uncertainty creates an emotional itch they can't help but want to scratch. And that's when they start thinking about you non-stop. Mixed signals work because they activate the part of the human brain that craves uncertainty. People naturally want to solve puzzles, and when you're not always available or predictable, you become the puzzle they need to figure out. Think of it like a cat and a laser pointer. The more you move just out of reach, the more they chase. Give too much and they'll lose interest. Pull back just a little and suddenly they're hooked. Now, let's be real. If you're someone who's used to being the nice person, always giving, always accommodating, this might feel a bit uncomfortable, but ask yourself, how has that been working out for you so far? Stoicism teaches us that the only control we truly have is over ourselves and how we choose to show up in the world. You don't have to bend over backward for anyone. In fact, the more you live authentically for yourself, the more attractive you become. What if they get confused by your mixed signals? Good. Confusion is part of the plan. Let's be honest, people aren't obsessed with things they fully understand. If you're always crystal clear about your feelings, your availability and your intentions, there's no challenge. And here's a fun fact. Humans are wired to crave challenge. When things come too easily, we take them for granted. But when something, or someone, keeps us guessing, we can't help but keep coming back for more. If you're sitting there thinking, but I don't want to play games, don't worry. This isn't about game playing, it's about balance. You're not disappearing or being cold. You're simply creating a natural ebb and flow in your interactions. You're allowing space for them to think about you, to wonder about you, to miss you. When you're too available, you remove that space, and they start to feel like they already have you figured out. No mystery, no obsession. Now, if you're worried about how to incorporate this into your life without feeling like a puppet master, here's the key. Live for yourself first. Have your own plans, your own passions, your own life outside of this person. When you're genuinely busy, you won't even have to try to send mixed signals. They'll naturally wonder where you are and what you're up to because you're living your life. Remember, people want to be part of something exciting. Make your life so full that being in it feels like a privilege, not an entitlement. If it feels difficult to hold back or not always be available, that's understandable. It's human nature to want to give and connect. But here's the thing. If you keep overgiving, you'll only drain yourself and lower your value in their eyes. They'll start to expect you to be available, and eventually, they'll stop appreciating it. The art of mixed signals allows you to protect your energy while increasing your worth in their eyes. It's a win-win. It may feel counterintuitive at first, but trust the process. The more you take control of your availability, the more they'll start to chase you. Think of it this way. If a movie was available for free online, would you rush to watch it? Probably not. But if it was showing in select theaters for a limited time, you'd be more likely to make time to see it. Your attention works the same way. It becomes more valuable when it's not constantly available. As Stoicism reminds us, he who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have. When you're content with yourself, with your life, and with your time, you naturally create an aura of value around you. That's what people want to be part of. Close your eyes for a moment and affirm this to yourself. I am the prize. I am not here to chase. I am here to live fully. I don't need their validation because I validate myself. I am enough as I am, and they will crave my presence. Say it, believe it, and live it. The more you embrace that truth, the more power you'll hold in any relationship dynamic. So, If you're ready to stop being predictable and start being the one they can't stop thinking about, start practicing the art of mixed signals. It's not about manipulation, it's about reclaiming your power and creating space for them to chase you. Remember, you're the prize, and once they realize it, they'll be the ones doing everything to win you over. And folks, this was just the first trick you need to add to your arsenal. Powerful, yes, but not enough to light the fire on its own. So, make sure you stick with me until the end, because staying still, this far in, means you're serious about changing the game. And trust me, you don't want to miss the rest of what's coming. These tactics build on each other for a reason. They create momentum that flips the script entirely. Oh, and before we move on, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button for more powerful sessions just like this one. The journey to mastery starts now, and I'll be right here with you every step of the way. Number 2. Scarcity power. Now, to make them truly obsessed with you and to reclaim your power, we need to dive into one of the most potent principles of attraction, scarcity power. When something is rare, its value skyrockets. Think about it. People clamor for limited edition items, exclusive events, or anything that seems hard to get. This isn't just marketing psychology, it's human nature. We desire what's scarce, and when it comes to relationships, the same principle applies. If you're always available, always there at their beck and call, what message are you sending? You're telling them that your time, your attention, and your energy aren't valuable. And when someone thinks they can have you whenever they want, they stop chasing. You become an option, not a priority. The key to flipping that dynamic is scarcity, making your presence something they have to earn. Imagine this. You've been texting someone all the time, responding immediately, showing up whenever they need something. In the beginning, it feels good. They seem happy with the attention, but slowly they start pulling back. You start wondering, what happened? Why aren't they as responsive as they used to be? The answer is simple. You became too available. People don't value what's always within reach. Scarcity power flips the script. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about genuinely making your time and energy a limited commodity. Instead of always being ready at a moment's notice, you create space. You let them wonder where you are, what you're doing, and why they're not the center of your universe. And here's the magic. That space you create is where their obsession grows. Let's break it down. Think of your attention like a rare gem. If you were to hand it out freely, it would lose its value. But when it's scarce, people are willing to do anything to get it. The same is true with how you show up in relationships. When you're always there, always available, they take you for granted. But when you pull back, when you become a little less accessible, they start to realize what they're missing. That's the power of scarcity. It makes them crave your presence. Now, you might be thinking, does this mean I have to ignore them or play games? Absolutely not. Scarcity power isn't about disappearing or ghosting someone. It's about making intentional choices with your time. It's about showing them that you have a full, rich life that doesn't revolve around them. You're busy pursuing your own passions, goals, and dreams. And when they see that, they'll realize that your attention isn't something they can get whenever they want. It's something they have to work for. Picture this. You've been talking to someone you really like. Instead of texting them back instantly or rearranging your schedule to see them, you take your time. Maybe you don't respond right away because you're at the gym, hanging out with friends, or working on a project. When they do hear from you, it feels like a reward. They're left wondering, what have they been up to? Why aren't they texting me back as quickly as before? That slight delay, that sense of not knowing where they stand with you, triggers a psychological shift. They start thinking about you more, wondering how they can win your attention. Scarcity works because it taps into our fear of loss. People are far more motivated by the fear of losing something than by the prospect of gaining it. When your time and attention become scarce, they'll start to feel like they're losing something valuable, and that's when the chase begins. It's basic human psychology. We don't appreciate what's always there, but we obsess over what we might lose. If this feels difficult to incorporate into your life, start small. You don't need to go from being ultra-available to completely unreachable overnight. Begin by setting boundaries. Maybe you don't respond to every text immediately. Maybe you start saying no to plans that don't align with your schedule or priorities. The goal here is to show them that your life doesn't revolve around them. And that's a good thing. When they see that you're living your life for you, they'll start to realize how much they want to be a part of it. What if you worry that pulling back will make them lose interest altogether? Let me tell you something. If someone pulls away just because you're not constantly available, they weren't truly invested to begin with. Scarcity power weeds out those who aren't willing to put in the effort, leaving you with people who genuinely value you. The ones who are worth your time will step up and match your energy. And trust me, they'll start working harder to earn your attention once they see that it's not something they can take for granted. As Marcus Aurelius said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." You can't control how others feel or act, but you can control how you value and distribute your time. By making your attention scarce, you're reclaiming your power. You're showing them that you're the one in control of how much you give and when. Close your eyes for a moment and affirm this. My time is valuable. My presence is a gift. I don't chase, I attract. People crave what I offer because it's rare, and I control when and how I give it. Feel the power in that statement. You are no longer someone who hands out your energy freely. You are someone who lives on your own terms, and that's exactly what makes you irresistible. Incorporating scarcity power into your life isn't just about making others chase you. It's about living in a way that honors your own value. When you hold yourself in high regard, others will too. You don't have to overextend yourself for anyone. Live your life, focus on your goals, and watch as they become obsessed with trying to earn a place in it. Remember, you are the prize. When your time and attention become scarce, their desire for you will only grow. Number 3, turn the spotlight on you. Now that we've talked about scarcity and mixed signals, let's dive into a powerful concept that many overlook. Turn the spotlight on you. If you've been trying to win someone over by constantly focusing on them, it's time to shift gears. The real power lies in making yourself the center of attention, not by demanding it, but by living in a way that naturally draws people in. Think about it. Who do people obsess over? Is it the person who constantly tries to please, or is it the one living boldly, confidently, and unapologetically? It's the latter. When you turn the spotlight on yourself, you're not only reclaiming your power, but also creating an aura of intrigue and magnetism. People become obsessed with those who have something going on in their own lives, not with those whose world revolves around someone else. Imagine this. You're at a social event, and there's a person who keeps asking questions, being overly attentive, and focusing entirely on someone else. Sure, they might come across as nice, but they also come across as forgettable. Then there's someone else in the room who isn't trying to grab anyone's attention, but is fully engaged in their own world. laughing, enjoying themselves, telling stories, being confident. Who do people gravitate toward? The second person, without question. Why? Because they're radiating energy and confidence, drawing others toward them effortlessly. When you turn the spotlight on yourself, you become that person. Instead of pouring all your attention and energy into someone else, you invest it in yourself, your passions, your goals, your well-being. And the moment you do that, people take notice. They start to wonder what makes your world so interesting. They become curious about you, and curiosity is the beginning of obsession. Let's break this down. When you're focused solely on the other person, trying to make them happy, you come across as desperate for approval. You're giving off the vibe that their validation is your only goal. But when you shift that energy back onto yourself, you show them and the world that you don't need external validation to feel whole. You have your own light, and they'll start to want a piece of it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but isn't this selfish? Number. In fact, turning the spotlight on yourself is one of the healthiest things you can do. Stoicism teaches us that we should focus on what we can control, ourselves. You can't control how someone else feels or behaves, but you can control how you show up in the world. When you live confidently and boldly, you're not only improving your life, but you're also creating an environment where others naturally want to be around you. Here's how you can start turning the spotlight on yourself. Begin by investing in things that make you feel alive. What are your passions? What goals have you been putting off? Maybe it's a hobby you've been meaning to pick back up, a project you've been wanting to start, or even just taking better care of yourself physically and mentally. When you focus on your growth, your happiness, and your purpose, you start to emit an energy that's irresistible. Picture this scenario. You're in a relationship where you've been giving everything to the other person. You're always the one checking in, always making sure they're okay, always available. But then you shift. You start focusing on your career, your hobbies, your personal growth. You're still present in the relationship, but now you're not pouring every ounce of your energy into them. Suddenly, they start noticing the change. They see you thriving, and guess what? They start wanting to be part of that energy. They begin chasing after the person who's not chasing them, you. Turning the spotlight on yourself also means setting boundaries. When you know your worth, you're not afraid to say no. You're not afraid to prioritize your time and energy. And here's the secret. People respect those who respect themselves. When you show them that you value yourself enough to invest in your own life, they'll value you even more. Of course, some of you might worry that focusing on yourself will push people away. But here's the truth. The right people will be drawn to you like a magnet. The ones who were never truly interested in your growth will fade away, and that's okay. You don't want people in your life who only stick around when you're constantly catering to them. You want people who are attracted to your confidence, your ambition, and your self-respect. This shift might feel difficult at first, especially if you've spent a lot of time putting others first. But here's a little Stoic wisdom to guide you. He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe. When you focus on your own growth, your own happiness, you create a ripple effect. Your energy changes, and the people around you can't help but notice. So, how do you incorporate this in your life today? Start small. Make a list of things that light you up, things that have nothing to do with anyone else. Then, commit to doing at least one of those things regularly. It could be something as simple as going for a run, reading a book, or starting a new project. The more you engage with your own life, the more magnetic you become. Close your eyes for a moment and affirm this. I am the center of my own universe. My light shines from within, and I don't need anyone's approval to feel whole. By living for myself, I inspire others to chase my energy. I am the prize. Let that affirmation sink in. You are not here to chase anyone. You are here to be the best version of yourself, and the right people will be drawn to that. Turning the spotlight on yourself isn't selfish. It's essential. When you do, you naturally create a space where people want to be. You're no longer the one chasing approval. You're the one living fully, boldly, and unapologetically. And that, my friends, is when the real magic happens. And folks, we're almost halfway through this video, and if you're still with me, it means this message is resonating with you. So go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps push this message to others who need it too. And I encourage you to stick with me until the end, because today is the day we make some real changes. Stay locked in, accept this challenge to see it through, and let's finish what we started. Your breakthrough is just around the corner. Number 4, emotionally unpredictable. Now, if you truly want to keep someone obsessed with you, it's time to embrace the power of being emotionally unpredictable. Predictability breeds boredom, and boredom is the enemy of attraction. People naturally crave excitement, mystery, and the thrill of the unknown. When you become emotionally unpredictable, you tap into that primal need for variety and excitement, keeping them constantly intrigued and on edge. Being emotionally unpredictable doesn't mean you should become erratic or dramatic. This isn't about causing chaos. It's about breaking away from being the person they always expect, the one who's constantly reliable, constantly there, constantly predictable. If they know they can always count on your reactions, they'll start to feel like they have you figured out, and with that comes a drop in their interest. Instead, mix things up, surprise them, keep them wondering what version of you they'll get. Imagine this. You've been consistently sweet and available, but one day you're a little more distant, not in a cold way, but in a way that makes them wonder what's on your mind. Then, the next time you're together, you're back to being engaging and warm. This subtle unpredictability creates tension, the kind that keeps them hooked because they never quite know what's coming next. They start to invest more energy into figuring you out. And that's where obsession begins. Emotionally unpredictable people are not volatile or unstable. They're intriguing. You respond in ways that are sometimes unexpected. You aren't easily read, and you don't allow yourself to fall into a routine. One day you're deeply engaged. The next you might pull back a little, and the balance keeps them guessing. When you pull back, they'll think about you more, wondering why the shift happened. When you lean in, it's like a reward, and they'll crave that attention even more. This tactic also helps prevent you from being taken for granted. If you're always emotionally available, it becomes too easy for them to assume you'll always be there, always predictable. But when you introduce a little emotional variety, they're forced to pay closer attention. They're forced to invest in figuring out where they stand with you, and that's exactly what keeps them emotionally engaged. Stoicism teaches us to remain in control of our emotions, but that doesn't mean we need to be emotionally stagnant. It means we choose how and when to display our emotions. As Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. You control the shades and tones of your emotional responses, using them to create depth and intrigue. So, here's your affirmation. I am a mystery worth unraveling. My emotions are mine to control, and I share them on my terms. I attract attention because I keep others guessing, and they are drawn to my depth. Be emotionally unpredictable, and watch as they become increasingly captivated by you. Number 5. Disappear strategically. To make someone truly obsessed with you, mastering the art of strategic disappearance is essential. There's power in your absence, and if used wisely, it creates a magnetic pull that draws them closer than ever before. When you disappear strategically, you're not abandoning them or playing hard to get. You're making your presence scarce to intensify their desire for you. Think about it. People often don't realize the value of something until it's gone. It's human nature. When you're constantly around, easily accessible, and always available, they may start taking you for granted. But when you pull back, when you disappear for a little while, you create a vacuum. That empty space forces them to notice your absence, and with that comes a growing awareness of how much they miss you. Imagine this scenario. You've been spending time with someone, things are going well, but then you decide to step back. You don't announce it. You don't make a scene. You simply become less available. Maybe you're busier with work, hobbies, or friends, but your sudden lack of availability catches their attention. They start to wonder where you've gone, why they haven't heard from you, and what's keeping you so busy. Suddenly your absence becomes the focal point of their thoughts, and they begin craving the attention you've taken away. The trick here is balance. You're not ghosting them or cutting off communication entirely. You're disappearing strategically. This is about giving them just enough time and space to realize what they're missing. It's about pulling back at the right moment, not when things are falling apart, but when everything is going well. That's when the impact of your absence is felt the most. Let's be clear, this isn't a game. You're not using this tactic to manipulate or control them. You're using it to create space for them to feel the void that your absence leaves behind. When you disappear strategically, you give them the opportunity to reflect on what you bring to their life. They start to appreciate your energy, your presence, and your impact in ways they may not have noticed before. One of the greatest benefits of disappearing strategically is that it helps prevent you from overextending yourself. Sometimes we get so caught up in trying to keep someone's attention that we give too much of ourselves. By stepping back, you're reclaiming your energy and reminding them that your time is valuable. And let's be real, people desire what feels valuable. When your presence becomes a rare, precious thing, they'll start chasing it. Picture this. You've been in constant communication with someone, texting regularly, spending time together, and things are going smoothly. But instead of keeping that pace, you suddenly become less available. You're no longer the first one to text, and when you do respond, it's on your terms, at your pace. You're not being cold or distant, you're just not as accessible as you used to be. This creates a sense of scarcity, and they begin to wonder, what happened? Why aren't they around as much anymore? That curiosity turns into desire. If you're worried that disappearing might push them away, think about this. If they lose interest because you've created some space, they were never that invested to begin with. Those who truly value you will start to feel your absence and will be drawn back in, even more determined to win your attention again. The ones who weren't truly invested, they'll drift away, and that's a good thing. You don't want people in your life who don't value your presence. Stoicism teaches us the importance of detachment, of not clinging too tightly to people or things outside of our control. When you disappear strategically, you're practicing this Stoic principle. You're detaching from the need to be constantly present in someone's life, trusting that your value remains intact even when you're not always there. As Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Your presence is a form of wealth, And when you're content with withholding it strategically, you maintain control over your emotional energy and your relationships. Here's your affirmation. I am a presence that cannot be taken for granted. My absence creates value. I disappear strategically to remind them of what they stand to lose. I am confident, and I choose when and how I show up in their life. Close your eyes and let that sink in. You are not someone who is always available. You are someone worth missing. By disappearing strategically, you're not only creating space for them to chase you, but you're also reinforcing your own sense of worth. Your time, your attention, your presence. They are gifts, and when given sparingly, they become something people deeply crave. Number 6. Reflect their fears. One of the most subtle yet powerful dark tricks to make someone obsessed with you is to reflect their fears. Everyone has insecurities, doubts and fears, even if they hide them well. When you subtly reflect those back to them, you create an emotional connection that feels deeply personal. It's not about exploiting their vulnerabilities, but rather showing them that you understand the parts of themselves they don't often share with others. Here's how it works. By acknowledging and reflecting their fears in a subtle way, you make them feel seen. People crave understanding, especially when it comes to their deepest insecurities. Maybe they fear rejection, abandonment, or not being good enough. When you mirror those fears, whether through your actions or conversation, you make them feel like you're on the same wavelength. They feel connected to you because you're tapping into something that hits close to home. Imagine this. They might fear not being valued in relationships, so you casually mention how you too have sometimes felt overlooked or unappreciated. Without directly pointing out their insecurities, you're creating a space where they feel understood. That's where the connection strengthens and their emotional investment in you deepens. But be careful, this isn't about making them feel worse. It's about being empathetic and showing them that they're not alone in their fears. When someone feels that you truly get them, they're more likely to become emotionally attached, seeking your presence because it feels comforting and safe. Reflecting their fears also gives you a subtle power in the relationship. You become the person they turn to when those insecurities arise. As Seneca said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. By understanding their inner fears, you can control the emotional flow of the relationship, making them crave your validation and reassurance. Here's your affirmation. I see beyond the surface. I understand their fears without judgment, and I offer comfort and connection. My understanding draws them closer and deepens the bond between us. Use this subtle tactic wisely and watch as they become more emotionally invested, unable to stop thinking about you. Number 7. The power of subtlety. Sometimes the most powerful moves are the quietest ones. That's where the power of subtlety comes in. When it comes to attraction, the loud, overt gestures aren't what leave a lasting impression. It's the understated, almost imperceptible moments that linger in someone's mind and keep them coming back for more. Subtlety creates mystery, and mystery fuels obsession. The beauty of subtlety lies in its ability to make someone think, what just happened? Why can't I stop thinking about them? Whether it's a fleeting smile, a quick glance, or a well-timed touch, these small, almost unnoticed actions create an emotional impact that loud gestures never will. The key is to leave them wanting more, to give just enough to make them curious, but never enough to feel satisfied. Imagine this. You're having a conversation, and instead of over-explaining yourself or showering them with compliments, you drop a cryptic comment that leaves them intrigued. Maybe you say something like, "There's a lot you don't know about me yet," and then shift the conversation. It's a subtle move, but it creates a sense of mystery. They'll start wondering what else there is to discover, and that curiosity will keep them thinking about you long after the conversation ends. Subtlety also gives you control. When you're subtle, you're not overwhelming them with attention or trying too hard. You're showing them that you have depth, and they'll want to dive deeper to uncover more. As the Stoics teach, mastery over oneself is the highest form of power, and subtlety shows that you're in control of how much of yourself you reveal. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." Subtlety allows you the freedom to express yourself without revealing too much. It gives you the power to guide the relationship without ever seeming forceful or desperate. Here's your affirmation. I move with grace and subtlety. I don't need to speak loudly or act overtly to make an impact. My presence speaks for itself, leaving them curious and wanting more. By embracing the power of subtlety, you become a mystery worth unraveling, and that's where the obsession begins. Now that you've learned these powerful strategies, mixed signals, scarcity, turning the spotlight on yourself, and more, it's time to take action. These aren't just abstract ideas. They're tools to reshape how others see you and, more importantly, how you see yourself. You've heard the steps, but none of it will matter unless you put them into practice. The power is in your hands. Ask yourself, are you ready to stop chasing and start attracting? Are you ready to reclaim your value, make people crave your presence, and live in a way that demands respect? If so, now is the time to take the leap. Here's what I want you to do next. Drop the comment, "I am the prize," below. It's not just a phrase. It's a declaration to yourself and the universe that you're no longer playing by their rules. You're done seeking approval, and you're ready to own your worth. Hit that like button if you're ready to flip the power dynamic and step into your role as the prize. Share this video with someone who needs to hear these truths today. Remember, everything starts with action. If you don't take control, they will. It's time to shift the focus back onto you, to live in a way that commands attention. They'll become obsessed, not because you played games, but because you embraced your power. So take that first step. Drop the comment, subscribe, and keep growing. You're not just here to chase, you're here to be chased.